Coach, you've had a full season here now at UC and a full off season. Are there any big changes you're looking to make in recruiting or the transfer portal or with team culture ahead of your second season?
There are no big changes. We just continue to execute a plan. With the transfer portal, since you mentioned that, you're gonna have not just a plan A but B and C, because you don't know anytime we are approaching the transfer portal. We are hoping that we don't lose players, but we did lose 4 to a portal after the season this past fall. Another one is coming this May. So the importance, another thing that you mentioned, culture, is that we are very, very intentional building a culture where our players will be happy, they will grow, they will develop, they will get great education. And if the only reason why they decide to enter the portal is playing time, that's something that it's hard to, again, control in a way. So we are just focusing on growth, on developing our players, getting our classes. It's not a little, it's a lot harder for us coaches in any sport because of the portal to have a plan who you're gonna have in that class, because you're planning, okay, these players are gonna graduate, these are positions we're gonna need, and then portal happens and that changes everything. But we are in the same situation like everybody else and doing our best and having a big list of prospects that we are looking at. And so that's a long answer.
Thanks, Coach.
You're welcome.
How you doing, Coach?
Doing great.
Is there any names in this next upcoming season that may have not gotten as much playing time last season that you're excited about maybe getting some more time on the court this season?
From the returners,
Yeah.
I assume?
Yeah.
I'm thinking, I'm going through our roster right now. I don't know. I'm excited about one of our transfers, for sure, Audrey Rome, she's a 5th-year graduate student who transferred from UConn. I believe she will play for us. She's right now playing at a high level as a middle blocker, so we needed experience in that position. We had 3 freshmen last year. I'm looking from the returners. I think the players who came back, who were starting, will probably start. We still have, after the spring break, 4 weeks, and then summer, you never know. I've had years when we came back in the gym, and the players who committed to continue developing and working out, they would go back to their old club gyms and train. They would come back, and we were surprised how much they've improved. So specifically, I can't tell you right now if there will be one that will be a surprise. I can tell you everybody's getting better. You're seeing young kids, our freshmen, are getting better, and I think spring games will give a little preview of what's coming. So if you have a chance, you can come and watch some of our spring games.
I'll be there.
Okay. March 28th here at 1 o'clock NKU.
Hi, Coach. So after having your first successful season, were there any moments this season that stuck out to you as the team was moving in the right direction?
Good question. We talk, what is success, right? How do we define success? So some people might say, well, it wasn't a successful season because we didn't make the tournament, the NCAA tournament. We were the first team out. A lot of people say it was a successful season. I would define it as a successful season because of the growth that we have experienced. Anybody who watched our team from the beginning of the season until how we played at the end, and the culture that we started building, the connectedness and resilience, that's one attribute that a lot of people commented how much more our team looked resilient. I would say that's a success. So remind me of your question. I just lost myself.
Yeah. Was there a moment in the season that stuck out to you, or a game?
Going into the season, I told him, just seeing we had enough talent and how we were developing, I knew we were going to get one of the ranked teams that we would beat before we finished the season. It ended up being Colorado. here at home on a senior night, that's always special. First of all, recognizing our seniors, sending them off, even though we had more matches after that. But it's a special night, and the way that we played, it was just probably the best match that we played, and we made Colorado look like another good team, and they're a good team. It's just we impacted their level of play. So that one stands out, and not because of we won. Yes, sure, we won 3-0, but we played really well. That was the best match, and it showed how good we could be as a coach. It's frustrating. Like, okay, we can play like this. Why are we not more consistent? But anybody who can figure out that question of consistency will be a millionaire in our profession.
Thank you.
Hello, Coach.
Hello.
So a few days ago was National Women's Coaches Day, and on socials, I had a statement from you about how important it is for you to be a coach. And so looking back in your career, or really just this season in general, what are those moments where, as a women's volleyball coach, it's worth it for you, and you say, like, these are the special moments that really make my job so special?
Great question. Thank you for asking that. It's this profession. It's interesting. You're judged by the outside people, wins and losses. And I said this during my press conference. If I'm gonna be remembered if my players can only say I made them a better hitter or a better blocker, and they improved their footwork in serve receive, I failed. To me, it's developing a whole person. It's developing young women. I mentioned in the quote. Leaders. I want to develop leaders. I want to develop players, leaders with courage, with integrity. I think we need more of that in this world that we are living in. I want to, my mission is again to develop champions on and off the court. And I believe that's possible, and the biggest satisfaction is when I get a text or an email or a call from former players, and they use the experiences from their volleyball career and the time that we spent together, and they say, this made me better. Now I'm an accountant, and I'm in the busiest time of the season, and I remember what we did as a student athletes, and that actually happened a few weeks ago. I got an early text from one of my recent graduates and said, I can't wait not to work 80 hours a week, but I remember what we did, and I know I can do hard things. And then I invited to the weddings of my former players. I have two, one in May, one in June, that I'm attending. That means that they want me there for their most special days, and that's success to me. But seeing them succeed after college is what this is all about. And I think we lost our way a little bit. That everybody, and I'm gonna point finger at the crowd and everybody, like it's wins and losses. It's just that it's not. Let's see. I don't know which coach I've read of. I believe it was football. I don't know. Some famous coach said, ask me in 20 years if I'm successful, based on what my players, how successful they're in life. That's how I'm gonna, the scoreboard that I'm gonna look at. So thank you for that question.
Thank you, Coach.
Hi.
Hello.
Kind of looking back, since arriving, you've added a lot of new coaching staff members and made adjustments to the staff. How important is it to have a staff that aligns with your philosophy and working together?
Yeah, it's a huge. It's very important. I'm very fortunate, actually. Two assistants who came with me from BGSU. Ali worked with me for 9 years, and Sean 2 years, I believe, if I'm correct. And then Chung was the new staff member, a new coach that we had to learn how to work together, and it's been seamless. We were reading a book as a team about All Blacks. Are you familiar with the New Zealand All Blacks? You know who they are? Yeah, the most successful sport organization. And one of the chapters is about the spearhead and flying in a V formation, being aligned. It's not just being on the same page, but being aligned. And when you have a staff that's aligned, you model that to the team. they see a functional staff, because I've also experienced having a dysfunctional staff, and it's reflected on a team. So having two coaches who know what's important to me, who have worked with me, who have been in the gym with me, who know, I mean, they know how I operate. I don't think I could have done what we did together last year without them, without all three of them. But specifically having Ali and Sean knowing exactly the direction that we are going and what we are building, because they were a part of that. They know what it takes to build a championship program. They know how intentional you have to be. They know the attention to detail that it takes, and the work and character and the type of a player and a family that a player comes from that is the right for us, for what we are building. They know that. So I didn't have to coach the staff and the new team and get to know fully the new staff and the new team, so the transition was much easier.
Hello.
Hi.
So you've gone on record as describing the Big 12 Conference as one of the strongest conferences in the nation. Coming from the MAC, do you feel a sense of relief in terms of the pressure of making the NCAA tournament, given you get more slots for it in the Big 12? Or are you erring more so on the side of caution, given you're going to be playing more difficult opponents on a more frequent basis?
Well, the Big 12 was the first league last year. We made a record. We were the first league in history to have 10 teams in the NCAA tournament. So I was right when I said it's one of the best. We were the best last year. No other conference had 10 teams in the NCAA tournament. I love that I'm part now multi-team bid league. It's really hard. To be in a league where only if you win the tournament you go in. I was in the past as a head coach. I had a year where we were undefeated in the regular season and got upset in the finals. We got at large, but you never know when you're coming from mid-majors if you're gonna get at large spot. So being in the Big 12, I see it as a privilege. I see it as an opportunity. I don't see it as a challenge. I love that every night we step on the court, we gotta bring our A game. You gotta show up. There's no team that you can overlook. We are now in the third tier in the Big 12, and we are changing that to move up and to become the top tier team. But I know, talking to other coaches, they did not underestimate us. Maybe the players did, some, I don't know, because of the past record, but we got better. Our record showed that, the way that we played, again, upsetting a ranked team. So I don't see it as a pressure. To me, pressure is privilege, and I embrace it and I love it. And I want to say again, if you're going to be a champion, you got to learn how to play against the best. And if you see how we also schedule our non-conference, I want us to be challenged in the preseason and get us ready for the Big 12. I almost said MAC. Get ready for the
It's
MAC.
instinct at this point.
I'm actually surprised I haven't made more mistakes, yeah.
If I may, with a follow-up.
Sure.
Bigger conference, bigger budget. You were talking earlier about that transfer portal, and I was curious, given your Bosnian background, if you would ever look towards back home to recruit someone. I was looking at the European Women's Volleyball Championships. It was a pretty long dry spell for Bosnia, but they did make it in both, I believe it was 2021 and 2023. If the time ever called, would you look towards home for an answer?
You've done your research, huh? We have currently two international players from my former country. I grew up when it was still Yugoslavia. I have two players from Serbia. So that used to be my former country. I coach some players from Bosnia. The league in Bosnia is not as strong. However, I always say there are always good players anywhere you can find great players. And if it's in Bosnia, if it's in Bulgaria, that we have the best libero in the world, actually is coming to us this summer. She was voted U19 at the U19 World Championships the best libero, where Bulgaria beat USA. She's coming to us. So we do have some international players, and I will always recruit international players as long as this country allows us to get international players, because that's changing too, unfortunately. Because they bring so much more than just talent. I think when you have diversity on the team and you can learn from different cultures, it makes everybody better. So I don't know, I hope maybe one day I find somebody else from Bosnia. I go there every year, so I'll need to connect with my contacts. But like I said at the beginning, the league is not as strong, so they're not as prepared as, let's say, coming from Serbia or Bulgaria. And they have to play for the national team. That's something that we are looking. If somebody is going to join us and help us win in the Big 12, we are looking for those who are playing on a junior or senior national team level.
Valeti.
Molim. Very good.
Any other
He just
questions?
said thank you in Croatian.
So kind of piggybacking off of that with like recruitment, you have 7 new signees for the next season. How has competing in a power conference like the Big 12 now that you're in impacted your recruitment style and how you're able to bring in these talented athletes?
It hasn't really changed. I mean, we have, by the way, 8. We'll announce one. She's already signed, but she'll be announced soon, maybe next week. It hasn't changed. I recruited as a, coaching at a mid-major level. I recruited players who could play at a Power 4. So it hasn't changed. We are looking for more physicality, or if you are not 6'4", you gotta be able to jump, or if you cannot jump, then you have to be a really, really good volleyball player. So it hasn't changed for me. I had, again, at my previous school, from that lineup, 3 players who could have played for us here at UC. It happens that they played what we call mid-major. So it's the money is changing. The rev share model is changing a lot of things for us now. This is it's already a professional level. So we'll see where it goes. But I think recruitment is going to depend on who has the money. We have schools in our conference that their whole roster is transfers. I just watched, by the way, did you guys see yesterday on Instagram, I don't know, some podcast, one of my coaches actually shared with us, right now, the basketball tournament, ACC actually, there's no team that has one player who played for the school for 4 years. Like 0. I mean, that's crazy, but that's our reality. So, and I'm still recruiting, saying, we want you to graduate from UC. We want you to get a degree here. I want to watch them walk across the stage and get their diploma. So I'll see if I'm too naive, if that's going to happen, if we can do it. But the money is changing, unfortunately, a lot of stuff, which is another press conference that we can cover that topic.
Thank you, Coach.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you all.